Reading has always been a mainstay of my life. Since I first learned how to turn lines of symbols into letters, into words, into ideas and stories in my mind, I have loved to read. Books have brought me comfort, adventure, information, friendship, joy, and compassion. Creative journaling, however, is a relatively newer hobby. It is a passion I developed in my young adult years as I've sought ways to document what matters to me. The books I read are at the top of that list, so it only makes sense that I would also choose to honor them in the pages of my journal. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I honored the books I read last year, all 52 of them, and used these entries to celebrate what it means to be a book lover. Whenever I'm creating a new reading journal entry, I love to bring in elements that remind me of the joys of reading and evoke the cozy feelings that I get when I sit down with a good book. So pages from a dictionary, some washi tape with beautiful handwritten text on it, and an illustration of a cozy spot with a pile of books are always good items to include. In this case, I'm using them to create a title page for the next few entries that will be my reading wrap-up from the last year, and I love bringing in stamps to offer a really nice title. I messed up a little bit, but in some ways I really like the effect because it reminds me of a library stamp and how they sort of are always layered on top of each other when putting the library due date stamped into the back of a book. If you like the watercolor illustration of the comfy chair with a pile of books, it is actually a sticker available on my Patreon. That is part of an older collection, but I have a brand new one called Book Lover Bibliophile that is now on my Patreon and has so many fun stickers to celebrate the joys of reading. I love the color palette that my patrons selected for this sticker collection, and there's so many fun quotes and little book lover definitions throughout this collection, as well as lots and lots of illustrations of books, and of course some places to write reviews and rate the books that you are reading. So that is available on Patreon, and because I love reading so much, this is actually my second collection that is reading focused. I did another one last March called I'd Rather Be Reading, and it is pretty common that my love of reading shows up in some way in most of the monthly printable sticker collections over on Patreon. You can see there's a little stack of books even in my newest collection called Afternoon Tea. So there are so many reading related stickers over on my Patreon. If you are interested, you can check out patreon.com/myabidingjournal. I have it linked down below, and I just so appreciate all of your support and your interest in my stickers. What I love about printable stickers is that you can print as many as you want. There's no such thing as running out of the stickers you love, which means these washi strips, even though I'm using them on this entry, I can just print out more to use them again and again on future reading journal entries. One of the reasons I wanted to document my reading in a wrap-up fashion was because I really had a great reading year overall. I surpassed my goal of 50 books and actually read 52 total books in the year. And I felt really good about the quantity, and I also read a lot of really great quality books as well. So I love that I'm able to capture hitting my goal here in my journal, but more importantly is the idea of capturing the individual books and the impact that they had on me. So for this entry, printing out the books in a list, I decided to basically just put them in the order that I read the books in a list format. So the book at the top of the list is the first book that I read in the year, and the book at the bottom of the list is the last book I read in the year. And of course, as Stephen King so wisely said, all of these books have been a uniquely portable magic. Although my love of reading has continued into adulthood, this is probably the first year that I've read this many books in a very long time, probably since high school, honestly. And I feel like in this year, I rediscovered the love of just continuously reading, in part because of using reading through audiobooks as a way of entertaining myself as I'm doing other activities, but also the joy of just sitting down with a physical book and tuning out the rest of the world so that I can really focus in and escape into another world. And these stickers, so many books, so little time, just capture how I feel about this year, because I read so many books for my own personal goals and felt really great about that. But at the same time, I knew that there's always more to read, and I'm never going to be able to read all of the books that I would like to in my lifetime. But we will try. We will always try to read more and more. That being said, I am trying to focus even more so on quality this year and less on the total number of books. But that being said, I do love tracking numbers in terms of rankings and types of books that I read, and that is where the Storygraph comes in. This is not sponsored, I wish it was, but I do want to tell you that these graphs that you're seeing that I printed out for my reading journal as my wrap-up are graphs that were developed by the Storygraph. When I put in my books that I'm reading, they form these amazing graphs. It's a completely free app, and I just cannot recommend it enough. I love getting to see my reading in a visual format and glean insights into the types of books that I'm most likely to enjoy. All that to say, I highly, highly recommend the Storygraph. It is a free app and is so much fun to use as a reader. And if you enjoy reading journaling, it is a great way to get nice graphs to put right into your journal. I simply took screenshots of the graphs that were developed by the Storygraph based on my reading from the last year, and I could just then insert them right into my journal. So again, for this entry, I am also going to be bringing in some decoration, of course, because this is creative journaling that helps to bring to life the joy of reading on the page and the experience that I've had this last year reading all of these wonderful books. So I'm using those same stickers from my printable collection to decorate this page as well. So a few interesting facts from my own statistics is that I had 10 of the 52 books ranked as 5 stars, and I'm actually going to cover those in my next video. But 4.75 stars and less was the majority of the books I read, and I find that I tend to be, I guess, a bit of a harsh critic when it comes to my reading. I really need to be blown away by a book to give it 5 stars. But in some ways, I'm trying to change that tendency because I think it can be a little unfair to the authors who actually probably do deserve 5 stars if I wasn't being quite so critical. I'd love to know if you tend to lean towards more 5 stars or if you too tend to be more critical of your reading when doing rankings. Or if you don't even do ratings at all, I'd be interested in that too. I also found it interesting that the least number of books I read in a month was 2, and the most I read in a single month was 10. And the genres I spent the most time with were historical, literary, self-improvement, religion, and memoir. And no surprises there, I love historical fiction and literary fiction. I really enjoy books that help me to learn more about who I am and also about God. And perhaps the only surprise in that mix is my new interest in memoirs. That is something that I've been getting into more recently and have really been enjoying. And the final stats worth sharing are that the average number of pages was 270, and my average rating was 3.94. So as I said, the books on this page are my 4.75 or less star ratings, and I did that on purpose because I actually want to dedicate more space to talking about the 5-star books that I read this year. And so I'm going to be doing that in a future video so that I can actually tell you about each of the books that I rated 5 stars and why they stood out to me to earn that rating. But for this entry, I kept it to my 4.75 or less and organized them in terms of how highly I would rank them compared to each other, with my favorite at the top and my least favorite at the bottom. And I organized these in Canva, actually copying the covers over from my Storygraph, which made it really easy if you want to create an entry that features your covers. I definitely recommend using the Storygraph to take the covers, but you also could, of course, just Google search them or find them on Amazon to create your own cover-focused entry for your reading journal. But I hope that you enjoyed this video and this peek inside what it looks like for me to create a reading journal spread, especially a wrap-up for an entire year of reading. I know I'm a little bit late with it, in part because I was waiting to finish this sticker collection so that I could use them for these entries. But I really hope that it was worth the wait and gives you some ideas for how you might want to document your reading this year. I would love to know how you document the books you read. What are some of your favorite reading journal spreads? And I would also love to know if you have a favorite book from the last year that you would like to recommend to me or to our community in general. If you want to know what books I would personally recommend, you'll have to stay tuned for my next video when I talk all about the 10 books I gave 5 stars and how I set up my journal spreads to document them. I hope that you'll join us for that video and that you'll subscribe so you get notified when it comes out. In the meantime, I hope you'll enjoy my latest videos, and until next time, keep exploring your abiding creativity and document a life abiding in faith, hope, and love.